This is BEngland with FDAImports.com. I'm glad you're here. I say welcome back because it's February the 20th, 2026. This is my second sort of installment for the day, following up the historic Supreme Court ruling on the Trump administration's IEEPA tariffs. I wanted to talk about something that genuinely fascinates me and give everybody an opportunity to agree or disagree. It's entirely up to you. I want you to do it in the comments, but look, listen, don't make any ad hominem attacks. If you do, then then I'm just going to delete your comment, right? I mean, we're not interested. I'm not interested in that, and I don't want to waste people's time to have to scroll through that nonsense in order to get to some actual response. So I'm interested in what you think, but let's keep it to the topic. I think what we're watching here, in my opinion, is what's unfolding is a masterclass in political and governance strategy, and let me frame that up for you, all right? So stick with me. Practically speaking, what has happened? Like in practical terms, it really doesn't matter what the Supreme Court did today. Why is that? Because basically the decision, if it does anything, it forces Congress into the arena. That's probably the biggest thing it did. Congress now has to affirm or deny tariffs through legislation of some kind. They cannot sit on the sidelines anymore. And here's the key. The catastrophic predictions, many of the catastrophic predictions that people claimed were going to materialize didn't. All right, we were told the country would go bankrupt. We were told markets would collapse. We were told the economy would fold, but that didn't happen. Now, doesn't mean a lot of bad things didn't happen, right? But not the kinds of things that we were being told was certainly going to occur. It was going to be the end of the economy as we knew it. And what happened instead? Well, inflation went down, gas prices went down, and that affects everybody who's got a combustion engine. The stock market went up. Government revenues actually went up. The national debt went down. Agree or disagree with the policy, the doomsday narrative just, in my view, just didn't really hold out. That doesn't mean that people didn't have very serious effects as a result of the tariffs, right? Because clearly that's true, right? There are swaths of the economy that took that hit. At the same time, what happened? Foreign governments came to the table, right? They sought access to the U.S. market because they need it. Why? Because they need to sell their products here. And that's leverage. That was Trump using the demand over the supply. And that's sovereignty in action. In my view, right? It's one nation, one sovereign nation negotiating from a position of strength over another sovereign nation, and it's supposed to work that way among sovereign nations. Past administrations, they would talk about leverage, but really what they were doing was just talking about community, right? They were not actually doing anything that was particularly uniquely important for the American people for the most part. And so Congress, I think, has a choice. Right? They're going to have to debate the tariffs, in my opinion. They're going to have to debate economic strategy. And probably they're going to have to do it all the way through the midterm cycle. Right, all the way through the midterm season until the midterm elections, which means that the narrative has now changed. Right, if they move to stop what Trump has done, they're going to have to explain to their constituents why they're reversing policies that many Americans feel have produced real, tangible results. Right, things that matter. And there's a lot of people who say that it's this year when people are going to start feeling the impact of the tax changes, and this is the year that people are going to say, "Wait, why are you guys turning away from what has worked? Why don't you instead?" Assist this and be on the same team with the Americans. And that's going to be a no small political calculation, I think, for people who would have challenged this. And they're going to do it. I mean, I'm not saying that they're not. But here's something that I think is very, very different in the shift. I think this is also very, very important. Trump doesn't, I don't know if you noticed, but Trump doesn't really lead the way most politicians sort of lead, right? In my view, most don't lead anyway. They're just sort of like picking which direction everybody's going and they go that direction. Instead, he governs, right? In my opinion, he does something different. He doesn't really turn around and look over his shoulder to see whether you're following, right? Because he's not really leading, he's governing. He's doing what he thinks the country needs, and you could disagree with that. But I think his view is I was elected to do what I said I was going to do, and I'm going to do it. And that's what that's the direction. That's the mindset, right? I think. Now, some people call that authoritarian. I don't think it's authoritarian because I think he's still within constitutional boundaries. It's an aggressive exercise of authority. There's no indication he's going to thwart the Supreme Court's ruling today, and I don't think he's going to do it. So it's not a dictatorship, right? The administration, what has happened? The administrator has already indicated that they're not going to seek congressional action in order to implement his original tariffs. Instead, what's he going to do? Instead, they're going to initiate through the USTR Section 301 investigations. This is what he did under his first administration. And by the way, Joe Biden didn't reverse any of that stuff. The stuff Trump did against, for instance, China for 25% on so many different things under 301, Biden kept those in place. Right. So he's going to basically expand, I think, the 301 investigations, like he says. He's also going to use Section 122. Which is very, very broad authority to attack basically 10% on everything. What is that? That's him just changing lanes, same objective, same endpoint, going the same direction. right? That's strategic adaptation. The Supreme Court ruling was decisive in terms of its outcome, clearly, right? But it's so complicated in its meaning, its reasoning, that its precedent value is not very clear, particularly with the next challenge, for instance, if the Trump administration were to continue to pursue the direction it was going, not under IEEPA, right? But so what now? Congress can act or not, right? They have that choice. The executive branch is moving no matter what. And this shifts, I think, the entire national conversation, right? Instead of culture war slogans being so important and dominating headlines, any things about ice and things about rivers and seas, or things about whether men can get pregnant, right? No, it's going to be about, do tariffs work? Did tariffs work? Should we continue them? Do tax cuts work? What's Congress going to do about it? What are you going to do, right? You better not pass those tariffs. You better pass those tariffs. That's going to become the battle. And historically, when the national debate centers on the economy, then elections tend to follow that gravity. They tend to go that direction, right? It's the economy, stupid. Remember that? Well, look, that phrase has reshaped American politics before, and we might be watching it happen again. This is my perspective on it. I'm interested in yours. BEngland, FDAImports.com. I'm still here in El Salvador. You can see the pool. That's the last thing I'm going to do before I light a cigar, probably, and jump in the pool. Let's have a debate. Let's talk about it. Use the comments, DM me, like me, link me, do all the things you're supposed to do on social media. And maybe over the weekend, you'll see me again with some more thoughts, depending upon how people react. Hope you have a great weekend, and we will see you soon.